All right, welcome in. No, this is really happening. Welcome back. The Hockey Show podcast, not canceled, not gone forever quite yet. We are here. We are back. It's been a while, but there's a lot to get to. I'm Mr. Wonderful, with me as always.
And I am John.
Yeah. All right. So,
Nick, what's a band from your childhood that never fails to put you in the right mood?
Oh, okay. We talking like...
Because I earlier today I listened to like 2 Streetlight Manifesto albums back to back, and all of a sudden I was right back in ska mode.
Okay. Well, I guess what I'm like, so it doesn't have to be like from our childhood, like band like we grew up listening to, like Godsmack. It could be like The Doors. The Doors just put me in a great mood, and that was a band that I grew up listening to as a child. So yeah, I'd say The Doors. Anytime I hear The Doors, I go back in time and I kind of go down that classic rock road usually.
And your Riders on the Storm from minute one.
Yeah, pretty much. Like I'll go crazy on The Doors, and then I'll slide over to like a Zeppelin or Beatles or something like that. Like if I myself kind of just going that road for a while, and then I'll pull back, and something like Toby Keith passing away will make me go, you know what? It's been a while since I've listened to that. Let me go listen to that now. I like songs.
He would do it during Black History Month.
Yeah. Welcome into the show.
The tie-in that made me think a lot about this is the Anaheim Ducks are doing Come Out and Play Night. Mm-hmm. It's a partnership with The Offspring. Oh. And I may or may not have looked at flights.
Okay, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah. I would love to see more hockey teams collaborating with local bands that people don't think about as much.
Well, I always think about The Offspring, but it's because I play The Offspring at least 3 times a day on my show.
Yeah, it's like you have to like walk the line with it and not be like too careful with it. You couldn't do like the Columbus Blue Jackets and the Chainsmokers. You would have to do like Columbus Blue Jackets with Hawthorne Heights.
And they just sit there with stereo the entire time waiting for goals. Yeah, we'll be waiting for a while in Columbus.
Seems so.
All right, so there's a lot to get to. We're not going to get into everything over the last month plus since we've been absent, but let's just start with, I guess, I consider this kind of some big news, and that's the Kings fired their coach. So we've had a lot of coaches getting fired this year, and Todd McLellan is now joined the club as of Friday and has been replaced by assistant coach Jim Hiller. I mean, something clearly was going to be done in LA, right? They had lost 14 of 16 games, a month of just bad hockey, everything being exposed, a lot of things going wrong there, and somebody had to take the fall, and it wasn't going to be Blake.
Yeah, they're 3-5-2 in their last 10, which, is a microcosm of the record you gave. I'm not sure why I even mentioned it. But it's funny you bring up Rob Blake, because as far as things the team is struggling with, I think you can place a lot of it at his feet. Granted, Todd McLellan had stuff that he wasn't perfect about. He kind of ran Cam Talbot straight into the ground really early on in the season and hasn't had a whole lot of other alternatives to offer up there. It probably doesn't help that Victor Arvidsson has been injured for most of the year. But this Pierre-Luc Dubois trade really not working out great for this team.
No, it kind of really, and that's why I had mentioned Blake, because this was a team that McLellan was hired to get them, this was a rebuild team, and he was hired to get them kind of to that point of past the rebuild. He led the Kings for 4.5 seasons, 164, 130, and 44 record. He was in the playoffs past 2 years, so, over exceeding with the team. But Rob Blake put this team together with kind of trying to speed up the process of the rebuild and bringing in more veterans. And yeah, that it's kind of not looking good right now. The PLD trade. It was a big swing, man. Let's be real. That was a big swing. Cam Talbot also, for how great he's been, he's only been an 881 save percentage over his last 10 starts. So it's not like he's been,
Yeah.
he's come way back down to earth. That's catching up to him as well.
Yeah, which they were off to a great start
Mm-hmm.
this year, mostly on Cam Talbot's shoulders. But the thing to keep in mind about the Dubois trade is that it wasn't just the fact that they sent Alex Iafallo and Gabe Velarde out of town to like free up cap space. They also sent Sean Dursey to Arizona for basically nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So to have that many holes in your lineup, it's almost kind of death by a thousand cuts now. And I don't know that a coaching change is going to bring about the results that they're hoping here.
Yeah, this is like many of the coaching changes this year. Although I guess we'll talk about the Edmonton stuff in a minute because I do want to talk about the coaching change there and some conversation about that. But I really don't think any of the teams that have made a coaching change outside of Edmonton needed to make a coaching change. And I don't even think Edmonton needed to make a coaching change. Edmonton was always going to be the team that they are right now. They just Connor McDavid was injured to start the season. But again, we'll
Yeah.
talk about them in a moment. But sticking with the Kings here, and yeah, I don't think firing the coach is changing anything there. I think there are a lot of issues there, and the Kings are in a position right now where uh, it looked like they were going to be a lock for a playoff spot with the start that they had, setting the record as well with the road wins this year. Uh, and now they're in a position where, I mean, similar to that of like Toronto, but I feel safer with Toronto right now, just kind of falling really hard to, they might miss the playoffs.
Yeah, they are 2 points up on Nashville for a wild card spot. They have 3 games in hand on them. So I would be a lot more worried about St. Louis overlapping them right now. They only have 1 game in hand on them, and they're up 2 points. But you're it's a very precarious position for them to be in. They banked a lot of points at the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
but they are going to need to be better than playing 500 hockey down the stretch here. And like we said, there's so much missing from that lineup, and even goaltending wise, Phoenix Copley hasn't been great, and that was before he had an ACL issue. So at this point, do you try to get John Gibson? Do you try to go out and get somebody else for this team? I don't really know.
And that's the thing is you're in a position now with this team of you. There are a few teams that are kind of finding themselves in an awkward spot as we start to approach that trade deadline. Ramp up to the deadline now over the next month. Even though for the second year in a row, third year in a row, it seems like trades are coming a little bit earlier than the deadline. But as we ramp up to that, like the Kings find themselves in a weird position because do you think you're really a playoff? Do you think this is a playoff team? And also, do you think that if making the moves and going all in on a type of deal that's going to require you to give up draft picks and prospects or NHL ready young players that are under control, you think that this is a team that can make a playoff run? Like, do you really think this is a team that's better than Edmonton now? Or a team that's better than Vancouver or the Jets?
Yeah, this isn't like the East where it's kind of wide
No.
open and no one's really kind of taking it and run with it. There's some real behemoths here. And if you want to blow off a bunch of assets to get stomped by Colorado or Vancouver or Vegas in the first round, it doesn't make a ton of sense to me.
No, it doesn't. And you're right. Compare like the East and the West this year. The West definitely has the powerhouses. In the East, there is any one of those teams right now that are in a playoff spot. Um, maybe outside of the Flyers for a lot of other issues that are probably going to hurt them down the stretch now. Um, nobody really is running away with it. Nobody really is kind of that team you look at and you think, oh yeah, that's everybody thought it was the Rangers for a hot minute, and it was the Bruins again. Now it's neither of those teams. Then everybody thought it would be Toronto, and Toronto's now sitting in a spot where they're only 4 points up. and it looks like Detroit's going to overlap them at some point for the wild card spot.
Yeah, it's been a wild change to the second half. There's been a lot of just black and night turnover. There's been teams that were at the bottom are starting to look really good. Chief among them, probably the Edmonton Oilers.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and the Oilers actually have a chance to make history this week. They're looking to stretch. I'm going to be watching that game after we record. They're looking to,
Tonight.
yeah, tonight as we record this game or as we record this show. You'll probably hear it after the game, so you'll know. We don't know, but as it currently stands, they look to stretch a win streak at 16 games to 17 tonight in Vegas, and then possibly 18 Friday in Anaheim, which would break the all-time NHL record held by the 92-93 Penguins.
And this was a team that fired their coach this year and was dead last in the NHL. The Sharks were better than them at some point this year.
And we were joking about that game and very excited to watch that game.
And we sat here and said, but if there was a team that all of a sudden put it together and went on a run, you wouldn't be surprised if it was the Oilers.
Nope.
And now here we are. They were perfect for the month of January, 10-0 in the games there. They have been first in save percentage, first in power play goals for the year. Stuart Skinner has been a revelation for a team that barely had any goaltending. He's had a .935 save percentage. Everything is going right for them.
Yeah, everything is going right for them, and I think it comes down to the goalie situation. But really, for me, Edmonton, like we said, if any team that was out of the playoffs back, in November when people were freaking out and all of that, we looked at Edmonton always this year and went, well, their goalie situation, they're not stopping shots. And these are goalies that are capable of stopping shots, but for whatever reason this year, nobody's stopping a shot in Edmonton. And then you had Connor McDavid injured and not really either not playing or when he was playing, it was very clear that the best player in the world was hurt. And then all of a sudden, Connor McDavid got healthy. And all of a sudden, the goalie's situation, well, they remembered, oh, yeah, my job is to stop the puck. So maybe I should start doing that. And they started doing it at a rate that is, I just think, is unsustainable. And when it comes back down to earth, it's going to be, that's when we'll really know what this Edmonton team is. But McDavid is averaging 2 points a game. Like, this is, when McDavid is healthy, it really doesn't matter at that point. Like, he is game changer, and Draisaitl is putting up the points, and everybody's contributing right now in Edmonton, but it's all stems from Connor McDavid being healthy and being able to put up 2-3 points consistently a game.
And outside, because I tried to dig into this a little to see if I could pick out something individual, because to me it's almost, even though it's accurate to say, it's almost too easy to say, oh, McDavid, oh, goaltending works again, oh, everything's all together. Jack Campbell has a .900 save percentage in the AHL, by the way. I don't know what happened to this dude. I hope he's okay.
He just lost it, man. He got like the yips
falling off the face of the earth.
Yeah.
But one person you can kind of point to who's really benefited from this coaching change is Evan Bouchard. And I can't point to something in particular that he did that's different for all of this. Whether it just looks like he trusts Evan Bouchard a little more, and suddenly Evan Bouchard is performing better against better competition. His ice time's gone up. His power play time has gone up. I can't figure out exactly how or why, but I blame Evan Bouchard for this turn.
Well, he finally turned into a top 4 defenseman. I have a tough time. I don't know. I have a tough time looking at that situation there and saying, yes, the coach is what changed this. This is why their 16 in a row is because of Knobloch and that and his system. And I really just like I just think that this is the Edmonton Oilers just with all things clicking. Like this is the team that we have said, oh, they should win a Stanley Cup. Like they're good. They're really good. Why are they not winning a cup? Oh, goalie.
They were like the hands down favorite to win the cup at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, like this is a good team. What's going on? And now we're seeing that good team just finally doing what they were always supposed to do, and just the coaching crossover. You could have put an inanimate rod there, and it would have gotten the job done. Like,
Jack Adams winner for the year, inanimate carbon rod. But
I'll show you inanimate.
So if you're the Oilers at this point, I'm thinking that there's what's probably going to happen and what should happen. Mm-hmm. Should you go all in at the deadline?
Oh, yeah.
They probably will, because this is more than likely Ken Holland's last, run at this. I'm sure he'd love a little bit of a better legacy in Edmonton. Mm-hmm. And he's going to do everything he can to make sure this ends up being a successful season. But if you're the Oilers right now, everything is vibing the right way. Everyone is gelling the right way. I don't know how much I want to mess with that.
Well, I think you don't go all in the way some other teams have gone all in. I think the all in for the Oilers, and I don't have their cap friendly up, but I'm pretty sure that they're kind of cap crunched as well. I think there's somebody that they're looking more of the they're looking to fill out the bottom six a little deeper. They're looking for the depth. They're looking to maybe shore up. I mean, like if I'm going to shore up anything on Edmonton, I'd want to add a little more defense. That's about it. But I honestly, I say that about pretty much every team, because my feeling is come the playoffs, the things that you're going to need the most depth in to make a deep run to me is defense, because my God, the amount of blocked shots, the physicality of the postseason, like you're going to lose a defenseman or two.
It's almost like saying we need to add another center, because every team would like to have another center come playoff time in case the worst case scenario, you have someone else that you can lean on.
Exactly.
Maybe they end up saying Corey Perry is their trade deadline acquisition.
That could be.
I did not understand that move.
Just but Colorado saying Zach Parise is theirs.
I mean, Zach Parise, you can. I understand the Zach Parise move a little more. And Ken Holland has always had a reputation as someone that's very willing to give second chances.
Oh, yeah.
And when you looked at Evander Kane, you kind of said, okay, there's, potential blemish to public image. There's a little bit of a risk we're taking here if this blows up in our face.
The legacy between that guy and some of the guys on Edmonton. I know it's a professional sport, and I've not to compare the NHL to, like beer league, but there are guys that I fought in beer league hockey that I ended up playing on a team with like 2 years later. And, you just put that crap behind you. Yeah, you have that whoops moment in the locker room. And you guys just kind of are like, what happened on the ice? Yeah, what happened on the ice. All right, cool. Let's go kick some ass together now. Like, I don't have to worry about you. You don't have to worry about me now.
Yeah, but it's the potential... The risk reward, I guess, is a better way to put it for Evander Kane.
Oh, yeah.
When you say, well, this guy's a 40-goal scorer, I'm going to roll the dice on him. As to where end of his career, Corey Perry, I mean, good for Corey Perry. Don't get me wrong. Dude upgraded in the best possible way.
Yeah, he did.
For team he started the year with to team he finished it with. But I didn't understand why make the move and take the risk and make that effort.
I mean, I think it's just trying to shore up a little more. Like with him, it's the playoff grit, this and that, even though he's never won a cup. It's
Corey Perry won a cup. Anaheim, yeah.
Okay. I thought there was what was it, the past 3 years though he's been on the cup losers, right?
Oh yeah. Past few years he was Montreal and Tampa and all the wrong
Colorado,
places at the
right?
wrong time. I don't think he was on
No, he
Colorado.
wasn't on Colorado. Who Colorado beat? Tampa.
Tampa.
So he was on Tampa then.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. I remember him being in that cup final, I feel like. Um so yeah, I mean it's the playoff experience, it's the veteran status, it's you know low risk, high reward. If it fails, he's scratched and sitting in the press box and Nick Bonino'd or whatever, with the Rangers where
Yeah.
you're DFA'd essentially.
Yeah.
So it's the low risk, high reward, but it really, to me, uh, it did make sense because of like everything you said with Ken Holland and second chances, and this just had the Evander Kane thing written all over it. Outside of the Evander Kane stuff was much more public knowledge of what happened, where we still really don't
Yeah.
know what happened with the Corey Perry stuff in Chicago. Um,
Yeah.
but it made sense that they would want him. And there were a few teams that I know were actually courting Corey Perry. I know the Rangers' name was in on it. It seemed like everybody that was kind of a solidified, top two in their divisions or their conferences seemed to be kind of pushing for him.
Yeah, maybe he wasn't nearly as much of a risk as I thought in that case. If that many teams were potentially interested in him,
I know the Rangers were
but
linked to him, and I feel like Detroit was linked to him for a hot minute.
the Rangers are linked to
That's true. The
every
Rangers,
passive
yeah,
prime
it's like
guy. Yeah,
it's like in baseball where everybody's linked to the Mets or the Yankees or the Dodgers because it
yeah,
just jacks up their perceived value.
yeah. But yeah, the Oilers. I don't know. I would not bet against them at this
No, I wouldn't, and that even includes if they, if they. I'm curious to see what the trade deadline is because just moving into the trades, I guess there were two big trades over the past, really around All Star Week, just kind of shocking the world, or shocking the hockey world, I guess, because we don't really see trades this early, or if we do, they're not trades like this where the biggest prize or the so-called perceived biggest prize of this year's trade deadline was going to be Elias Lindholm and the Vancouver Canucks, which, by the way, Lindholm also scored tonight already. The Canucks landed Lindholm from the Flames, who got three players in return, first-round draft pick and a conditional 2024 pick. And as far as the players go and this trade goes, John, what was your take when you saw Elias Lindholm traded to the Canucks?
I go back and forth with this because obviously a team like Vancouver, when you have one Swedish center named Elias, you got to go out and get another. Despite the fact they're pronounced differently, we'll gloss over that for the sake of my joke. But they had Bo Horvat, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they go out, they trade him for assets, and then they turn around and be like, "Hey, you know what we really need is a center, a player like Bo Horvat. Let's go out and get Elias Lindholm."
Well, okay, you bring that up, and I've seen some Islander fans do that, like ho ho ho, we got Bo Horvat, and some criticism as well from Canucks fans saying like, well, why'd you trade Bo Horvat? I still don't have an issue with actually either one of those trades in the moment, and even in hindsight with the Bo Horvat one. I don't think if you're the Canucks, you could have afforded to pay Bo Horvat what Bo Horvat ended up getting with the Islanders. He wasn't going to take a discount with you. He wanted that deal. He got that deal with the Islanders. So I don't think it would have been wise for them to be locked into that. Just like I don't think it's wise for the Islanders to be locked into that. But they were missing the playoffs last year, and they were able to get a first-round draft pick. Like they were able to make a trade that they have now parlayed off into Elias Lindholm being a rental for the year. Which, yes, I know rental, yada yada yada, but in the short term, the Canucks went from missing the playoffs last year to they are now looking like a true powerhouse that could make a cup run out of the West. So why not go out and make the move for the short term that you feel that you can make? Like, you're okay with the first round picks. You're okay with that.
Yeah,
You're like it's a,
yeah,
like they're in a position where they can afford to give up a first and two pretty intriguing prospects, and an NHL young NHL player in his second year in Kuzmenko, who's struggled this year after having a solid rookie year, struggled this year. So the Flames are banking on this is a change of scenery thing, but this could be the Canucks traded away a guy who doesn't need a change of scenery. Just kind of what he's doing this year is who he is. And I'm okay with sometimes trading away prospects because you never know what they turn into. Yes.
yeah.
Yes, there are this sure thing prospects where you're not drafting Sidney Crosby and trading Sidney Crosby. You're not doing that. But I'm okay with going, I mean, this guy, like he's still projected a year out. He could turn into a top six guy, maybe not. Trade him. I'm okay with trading him.
Especially if you're in a position like
Yeah.
Vancouver is, where they are. This is like the Elias Lindholm trade is not a move that you make to, like we talked about with the Kings, maybe squeak into the wild card. You're making this trade because you feel like you genuinely can win the Stanley Cup, and I don't think Vancouver's delusional in thinking that.
No.
What the funny thing that stands out to me as part of the trade is that they talked with Andrei Kuzmenko about what the process was like, and apparently he was already on a beach in Mexico, for the All Star break, and was talking with Craig Conroy and the Flames coach, whose name escapes me at the moment, just like trying to convince him to waive his no trade clause and come to Calgary. Which that's a work call you love taking
Yeah.
while on vacation, right?
Yeah.
It's, by the way, we might be living in a totally different city when we get back.
Right.
But Kuzmenko played in the KHL for a little while before coming over. He's 28 years old. His rookie year, he had 39 goals.
Mm-hmm.
Now, some of that may be due to having a coach like Bruce Boudreau who says, hey, go out there, have fun. Some of that may also be due to the fact that he was shooting 27% that year. So I would not expect him to go into Calgary and be a potential 40 goal guy. He's had 8 goals so far this year, and he's shooting 12%. I think that's probably more what you expect out of him. He's probably closer to being a reliable 20 goal guy than he is a potential 40 goal scorer. He's only signed for one more year, though.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how much of the long term plan he's going to be for the Flames. As much as Hunter Borwek, wow, I'm usually not the one that doesn't know how to pronounce it, but Hunter Borchevich.
Bruce Shutsky. Sorry.
Borchevitz?
Hunter B.
I think this is what everyone listens to, is how long it takes us to get to the right pronunciation.
Yeah.
He's having a monster year in the OHL.
Yeah.
Granted, he's an overager, so you would hope that he was doing that in his draft plus 1 year. But I think that is going to be the name to commit to memory out of this trade more than Kuzmenko.
Yeah, and that's what I mean by you get intriguing prospects, at least one, like you mentioned, Hunter, that you really kind of have an eye on. But that's why I'm okay with, if you are a team that feels like it is time to push the chips into the middle and you can afford it, you don't need the prospect hug. You don't need to. I don't see the point in it sometimes because truly, we've talked about it. How many first round picks end up actually making it into the NHL and sticking around? How like you just never know what you truly have until it gets out there, and sometimes it's better to sell high on the prospect aspect, and hopefully they turn into something for the other team. If they don't, you dodged a bullet because they didn't turn into that, because they didn't turn into a bust for you. So
Yeah. And they're also saying Vancouver could potentially make more moves. I think if they do, it's going to have to involve prospects because they don't have a first or a second
Yeah, at
anymore.
this point, it's players being moved, or they're going to be doing like that conditional, like next year conditional this. Well, really, we're sending you this and this, but it could turn into this if we win the cup and yada yada yada.
Yeah,
All that crap that
yeah,
we end up going like, wait, so it was really a trade for a fifth, but it's really a trade for a third next year, because
yeah,
this is a team that's probably going to like the Eastern Conference or Western Conference finals and yada, yada, yada. But I do want to,
yeah.
I want to ask you, do you think that this is, so have the Flames finally signaled, give us a call, Sime, anybody that's on a 1 year contract?
Oh, absolutely. Somehow the Flames have ended up in a position to just control the rest of the trade deadline because there wasn't any sort of movement here. Then all of a sudden, as soon as Elias Lindholm goes, another center ends up moving.
Yeah.
And I think we are sitting back and waiting to see where Chris Tanev ends up moving before other defensemen will kind of follow suit from there.
Yeah, Tanev is good point actually, because Tanev is I guess would be, unless the Chikrin, there rumors of Chikrin, even though Ottawa denies it.
Yeah.
So unless the Chikrin rumor mill is legitimate, yeah, that's the defenseman everybody's going to be going to be vying for, because he's got another year of control as well. So you have a young defenseman, but is that the defenseman that puts you over and makes you a true cup contender and makes you the cup winner if you're a team like the Avalanche or somebody like that might be in the market? I don't know if the Avs are in the market for a defenseman, but teams that are in the market for defensemen. Plus, what's the return going to be on that? But you're right, that could be the defenseman that holds up the D market. And once he goes, it's kind of all the other defensemen that are available this year start to move.
Yeah, and to look at kind of where he kind of would fit into all of it, I don't think Tanev is going to be the guy that you get to throw on first line power play or something like
Uh,
that. But especially if Tanev is your first pairing defenseman, you're probably in trouble. If he is your number 4, number 5, number 6 defenseman, that's a really good sign for you.
mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
And and as far as I had one other thing that stood out about Vancouver that I wanted to
Oh,
mention
yeah.
is that they are already kind of deep at center. And I went through the list. It's JT Miller, Elias Pettersson, Teddy Bulger, Pia Suter. The big issue that Vancouver would have with all four of them, all of them are left-handed.
Hmm.
Lindholm, right-handed. Gives you a lot more versatility when it comes to picking face-offs and who's taking what when you're at home and stuff like that. Um, it feels like a nitpick. It really does in that aspect. But having a right-handed center is something they specifically talked about really liking about him. And if you like your team that much that you're starting to drill down into like handedness of players, I think you're in really good shape.
Yeah.
But that's to say nothing of the value that Lindholm will probably provide on the PK as well, given that he's a Selke finalist and a former 40 goal scorer. Lindholm that may have let the Flames play kingmaker here.
Yeah, yeah. And I know Lindholm has had kind of a down year, but you figure the position that he's going to be in on the Canucks. As I mentioned, he's got the Canucks goal. He got their first period goal on the power play, so he's going to be a power play guy in the front of the net. He's got those quick hands. He's capable of being a 40 goal scorer. So it's not what he's done this year on the Flames. It's what we know he's capable of doing, which makes this a great pickup for Vancouver. I really like this pickup for Vancouver. Again, in the short term, I like this move for Vancouver a lot. It is
For sure.
it's this was allegedly the number one center on the market this year, so that's a huge pickup. Maybe not the number. I don't know where he was ranked center wise on the market. I know he was up there, and he was going to get moved for sure. And that's Montreal, or former Montreal Canadian center Sean Monahan. Now remember the Winnipeg Jets, as he got moved by the Canadians for 2024 first and a conditional 2027 third. Not shocked that this cost a first following the Lindholm trade.
For sure.
I still find that really high for Sean Monahan, though. Because
I think so too.
yeah, I'm curious where you put Monahan, because to me, Monahan, good player, can drive the puck 5-on-5, but doesn't really put up the big numbers 5-on-5, is more of a special teams type of guy. And I consider more of a third center.
Yeah, I'm not sure I would be comfortable putting him higher than my third line center on a really competitive team.
Mm-hmm.
But, with the number one center off the market, I think it really enabled Montreal to say, hey, all of your, center prospects are about to dry up. If you want this player, you better make this move.
Mm-hmm.
And Kevin Cheveldayoff, the GM for the Jets, never gets a rental player, ever. So, again, team that thinks they can probably go all the way, and I think that depends a lot more on how far Connor Hellebuck feels like taking them.
I mean, he's having a best in a year.
Yeah, and it's such an interesting sort of image rehab that's happened for Sean Monahan, because he got picked 6th overall by the Flames. I want to say in 2018. I could be wrong about that. Has a decent start to his career, but the last couple of years just really falls off. And he has wrist surgeries. He has a herniated disc. He has a thumb issue. He has work done on both of his hips. So he really starts to develop a reputation as a player that can't stay healthy, that's being overpaid. And Calgary includes a first-round pick with Monahan, moves him to Montreal for future considerations. They just wanted to dump the cap move for him, and they were willing to give up a first-round pick to do it.
Yeah, that says a lot.
Yeah, and then Monahan dusts himself off a little. He spends over 2 seasons in Montreal. He plays 74 games. He puts up 52 points, and now he's being traded for another first. Mm-hmm. So this is a nice bit of business here by Montreal.
Yeah, they turned him into 2 first-round picks somehow. And I don't believe that he's ever really been worth a first in either of those trades. But, even especially if you're trying to dump him off, like, you hold all the, whatever. It just, that trade blows my mind still. I don't, listen, it's a move. I think it helps the Jets, but I don't really think it moves the needle the way a Lindholm move did. As far
For sure.
And like as far as the Jets go, there's still a few more things that they would need to do that I don't know if they're gonna do, because I feel like they're gonna look at this and go, see, we made the move. Like we traded our first for Sean Monahan. And I don't know, but I'll tell you this, where the center market has been set at, does that mean Adam Henrique is worth a first-round pick?
I think the conversation starts at a first-round pick for Adam Henrique and goes from there.
I mean, hey, really? For Adam Henrique? Because,
supply and demand. Man.
Yeah, it is. It is the supply and demand, because the centers that are out there this year, a lot of them are third-line centers, but I do, and here's the thing. I think that there are certain teams. I think a team like the Jets, they needed Lindholm more than the Canucks did.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because the Canucks have a lot that you can point to for their future, that where they just are humming on all cylinders. Their goaltending's looking good. Their defense is looking good. And a lot of these players are secured for a while here. For Winnipeg, this might be it, man.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes sense that you have to go all in at this, because this is the best chance you're going to have at a successful season, probably for quite some time.
And at the same time, too, I mean, Hellebuck has been carrying that team for years. He's got his extension. He's going to stay. You only got like maybe another 3-4 year window, including this one with him.
If that.
if that, because of his age, because it's gonna, I mean, unless he plays at a high level until he's like 36, 37, great, I would love that, but I don't know if that's possible considering how many miles he already has on him because of playing for Winnipeg.
Yeah, and there's so much that's coming to a head next year.
Mm-hmm.
Nikolai Ehlers will have 1 year left on his deal next year. Alex Iafallo will be in that same category. If you go look at their defense, Nate Schmidt, Neil Pionk, like a lot of people have potential to move
Oh
right out
yeah.
of Winnipeg
Oh yeah.
starting next year. So this could be a team that makes it to the conference final and then is a seller at the deadline the next year. It's all just kind of up in the air for them. But I don't hate the deal for them because of that aspect, because they have games in hand in the standings right now. They could be the number one team in the Central.
I mean,
when
listen,
it's all said and done.
they absolutely. I'm proud of them for going out and doing it because they are showing that they want to make a run and that they would like to win a playoff series. So they're making that push. From last year being eliminated and calling out the players and all of that, to now that they're sitting here and they're trading for Sean Monahan a month before the deadline to keep making that push. Props to them, and again, it helps them. I just don't. Me personally, it doesn't move my needle to go, oh man, let me. You know who you really need to put your money on? Let me tell you about this Jets team out there in Winnipeg. Like it's a good, solid move. It helps. I just, I think that there could have been other routes to go that wouldn't have cost so much. There could have been other players to look at. I just haven't been big on Monahan. I've ever since I've seen Monahan's name,
Yeah,
it's really honestly the one. I don't think Henrique is worth a first, but Adam Henrique is a type of player that intrigues me for a playoff team looking for a depth at center and more center help. Who is it? There's somebody on Columbus. Oh God, why is name's blanking right now? I'm gonna have to look it up, but there are players out there that I think could help more than Monahan, but I understand why Monahan demanded what he demanded and why he was the next center to be traded.
yeah, and it becomes a thing to where when you're picked that high in the draft too, you always kind of have that associated with you, and it takes work to really kind of separate the player from that draft pick. So if you look at Sean Monahan just as the player that he is, he's a really good addition to have somewhere. He's not great offensively all the time, even though he has a reputation for just having ice water in his veins in big pressure situations. But to have a really good chance to look at him just as he is right now, rather than what he was hyped up to be throughout most of his early career, he's worth adding to your team. He's not necessarily worth a first round pick, but I think he's probably worth a first round pick to the Jets.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I guess we're just gonna have to see where the trade market goes and all of that. But do you have any other thoughts on this trade or?
No, that wraps it up here for me.
Okay.
I think Montreal's stacking things up pretty nicely here. They could really have something here in a few years if they play their cards right.
Yeah, if they play their cards
If they
right.
manage their assets like they've managed, like they managed Sean Monahan, they'll be in real good shape there.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, they got pretty good. They got management there that apparently won't answer a phone call if it's Chris Drury. Did you see that, by the way?
No, are they mad about the Scott Gomez deal?
No, no, you wish. No, Jeff Gordon is the runs hockey operations and stuff like that over there. Famously, Jeff Gordon was general manager of the New York Rangers and was fired for current general manager Chris Drury to take his position. So apparently there was conversation of because both of the guys traded were apparently linked to the Rangers, of course, as we mentioned, everybody is. But everybody kept saying that Monahan was a no-go because Jeff Gordon would not allow a phone call to be taken if Chris Drury called for any of his players. So
Wow.
do not expect them to ever work out a deal because he's apparently still pissed at everything that happened in New York.
Wow. It's so funny to hear about how teams end up holding grudges. Like for I don't remember what it was that upset them with it, but I want to say like Boston was offering like a bigger extension or something to one of the Red Wings players in the early 90s. And like ownership just came out and it was like, we do not make deals with the Boston Bruins. And then like the Tyler Bertuzzi trade became like the first deal they had made since, or like going back for till like 1993 or something absurd like that.
Holy crap.
This would be a way better story if I remembered the details.
But still, it's maybe we'll do an episode on that, a light day or something like that, where we'll do one of those like teams that held grudges and what the stupid grudge was about. Because to me, we didn't even mention this. Yeah, but we didn't even mention this with the trades, and we don't have to really go into it. But as far as the Canucks and the Flames making two trades with each other this season, two teams within division, something you normally are told doesn't happen. I find it weird that people wouldn't answer a phone call on a trade because it's
from someone not in your division.
Yeah, well, just from somebody like, why would I hold a grudge and not answer it? Like, if the Rangers were to have called, for instance, and Montreal hung up, and then you find out that the Rangers were willing to offer up Capo Caco and a first-round pick for Monahan, and all they got was a first and a conditional third or fourth, whatever the hell it was. I moved my notes, but a first and a conditional pick. It would be like, why the hell didn't you answer the call? They were willing to give you an NHL ready third line player and a first, and you
let your ego shoot it down.
Exactly. Yeah. So I don't understand why you would never listen and take a call from somebody, because it could be the best trade offer you are ever going to get in your time as a GM.
And the other thing that I thought was interesting for this trade for Monahan is that the third round pick that's included in there is for 2027. And so I was looking at him like, that the player that's that third round pick is like 15 right now.
So
and I wonder if I wonder if GMs think that way. They're like, well, I traded a 15-year-old today. That was fun.
So okay, I actually think that some GMs, like for instance, and we talk about this with certain contracts that GMs hand out, in Vancouver's case, or not Vancouver, in Winnipeg's case, giving up that 2027 third, I might not be here. That's not my board. That's not my, I don't need to worry about not having a third round pick that year. That wasn't me. I don't need to worry about that. I got fired because we didn't win the cup.
Exactly.
Exactly. I think that there's that thought process as well of like when they trade away those conditional picks is like, I'm not going to be here for another 2 years. You kidding me? My window is like a year and a half. This is all about to go away. Who cares?
Yeah.
Something that could go away. The Coyotes. Well, maybe not. Who knows? But the NHLPA had some comments. They weren't too happy with the Coyotes there. So I guess to sum this up and to kind of quickly get into this, the Coyotes insist they're committed to building a new arena in Arizona, hinting that they'll have some exciting news soon. Gary Bettman, for the All-Star weekend, even said that they told him that they'll get it done. But then Marty Walsh, the executive director of the NHL Players Association, he opened his mouth and he ain't buying it. Walsh blasted the Coyotes on Friday for failing to meet the multiple deadlines to build an NHL-worthy arena in the greater Phoenix area, Also, for declining to meet with player representatives to discuss the team's future in the Valley, he said he had serious concerns about the franchise. Wall suggested that the Coyotes should move to another location, something we'll talk about as well here. Utah being the likeliest candidate, should they not have an arena deal in place by the end of this season. Whoo! And then he goes on, he continues to blast them, but that's the big one right there. No faith, no belief. John, do you believe in the Coyotes ownership to get an arena done?
You remember the South Park version of Game of Thrones?
Yeah.
Where they're talking about how winter's coming and the dragons are going to be coming,
So many
and
digs.
yeah, and oh no, pizzas are on the way. Actually, it's going to be two pizzas. It goes on and on like that, and nothing ever really comes of it. And I feel
Walking
like
through the garden to plot against somebody.
yeah, exactly. And that's what Marty Walsh is doing
Yeah.
with the Coyotes ownership right here.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just, if this was going to work, it would have worked a while ago.
Yeah.
I feel like, and this is the same Phoenix Coyotes that wouldn't pay their taxes to the city of Glendale until they made a big public issue out of it, and then, oh, sorry, that was a clerical error, and we have this all together, and this, that, and the other, and then go on to make asses of themselves from it. It seems like this is a franchise that isn't going to go out and do anything until there's some sort of embarrassment to be had from it.
Yeah.
And I think that's exactly what Marty Walsh is doing here, because the exact quote I thought made this a little bit more interesting. It says, "We have a team in Arizona that doesn't seem interested in having a conversation with the union that represents the players that play on that team. Unfortunately, we've had two unofficial deadlines come and go to see some movement, and we've seen both of those go past. So I'm interested to see what the owners of the Arizona have on their minds." So in a certain sense, it's almost fair for the owners of the Coyotes to turn around and say, well, you're the union rep. We don't answer to you. So, yeah, we'll get everything together for this arena on our own time. And Gary Bettman, as he always has stood very much behind the Coyotes and says, we have a tendency to not contradict owners unless we have concrete evidence. So in that sense, it's like, yeah, you don't have to mess with Marty Walsh, but the guy was mayor of Boston for a number of years. This is kind of small potatoes to him, I would think. Yeah. So if it were up to me, I would cooperate with the guy. But I don't own a sports team, so
yeah, I don't want to be I don't want to piss off Marty Walsh. All right, and I think because he comes from politics and Boston politics, he knows he knows that Arizona is just kind of bluffing. Phoenix is bluffing here, and I'm kind of at that point where I feel like Phoenix is really bluffing. They don't have anything, and I hate to say it because since the Coyotes came into existence, I have loved the idea of there being a team in Phoenix, a team in Arizona, a team in Glendale, wherever the hell they played. I loved the idea of there being a team in that state. Like, I loved the Coyotes. I thought that it was such a cool, hockey in the desert. Hockey in the desert. How great. Well, we have hockey in the desert of Nevada, and it works fabulous. We have hockey in the desert. I think he just scored again, by the way.
Elias Lindholm.
Yeah, they just got another power play goal, and he was in front, and I think he redirected it again.
Amazing.
Yeah, so he's now beating Carolina 2-1. I can't see how you can keep giving this franchise a chance to not do their job, and with Utah, the owner of the Jazz, coming out, and the NHL, by the way, that announcement with Utah would like for 33 teams and yada yada yada, and expansion. The NHL isn't a big fan of when people just do that. So the fact that they
Mm-hmm.
did that in the NHL has kind of been like, oh, that's cool. The NHL was well aware of that. The NHL is cool with that. And the NHL is thinking about Utah for hockey. Whether we actually need an expansion, I don't think we're ready to go to 33 and then inevitably 34, and then that probably is going to push us to 36 at some point. I don't think we are ready for that. I think we are fine where we are. So I do think that realistically, it's time to start looking at the Coyotes being moved to Utah.
And and the tough part of that though is if you move the Phoenix out of or move the Coyotes rather out of Phoenix, the NHL is going right back there first chance they get because it's too much of a TV market to pass up.
Mm-hmm.
And when they moved the Thrashers to Winnipeg, Gary Bettman specific they asked him, what gets you, to the point where you're talking about or willing to move a team, and he said, when I can't find anyone in the market to own the team. So it would take a lot to make this move. And frankly, if I'm a potential sports owner, I see Seattle gets the expansion draft and is halfway decent.
Mm.
I see Vegas gets the expansion draft and, already wins the cup. I'm not all that interested in acquiring the Coyotes.
That's a good point. It's a real good point. You nowadays, is it better to inherit a team moving? And this is actually a great question throughout all our sports because you know, if you look at all sports now with how many teams you have, it has diluted the pool of players. When you really think about it, at the end of the day, like only six teams in hockey. Everybody kind of had multiple superstars. Some teams, like Montreal, were just nothing but superstars up and down. Uh, but then you start expanding the league out. Now all of a sudden it becomes harder for everybody to have multiple stars, let alone one star. You see it in baseball with starting pitching. There's starting pitcher. How many aces are actually in Major League Baseball? There's not 30 Major League Baseball aces in the sport, but there are 30 teams that have 5-man starting rotations. There aren't 32 elite goalies in NHL. There's, what, 5 at best, and the rest are teams trying to make a 1A, 1B situation happen. So, yeah, that's a great point. Like, because you can put together a team of somewhat serviceable players, Seattle, and make it work, as opposed to just getting a team that has fundamentally failed kind of building its everything.
The one counter to that I heard that I really was able to buy into, because I'm kind of with you. At a certain
Yeah.
point, we have to turn around and say, how many teams is enough? I'm trying to mark off every NHL arena. They're not making it easier on me. Uh, but you also keep in mind, when there were 6 teams in the NHL, all the players came from Canada.
Yeah.
You barely had any American players to start the team, despite there being 4 American markets. And now, as the NHL has grown, you have started to see other teams pop up, or other players come from places like Germany, like Slovakia, Slovenia. We talked about Lithuanian players earlier this season. There's you're seeing players come from a much more diverse set of backgrounds and a much more diverse number of countries. And I think that's something that should be considered for expansion. I don't think it should be the sole reason for expansion, but I think you have to consider it that, you can still get high quality players. You just need
Yeah.
to diversify the number of places that they come from.
Yeah.
What was kind of concerning was when Bettman started talking about expansion in his press conference at the All-Star game. The cities that he mentioned, the typical Houston, Kansas City, Atlanta. Did you catch the other 2 that maybe raised my eyebrows a little?
No.
Cincinnati and Omaha.
Huh. Omaha.
Now, refresh my memory. Have you been to Salt Lake City?
I have not been to Salt Lake City.
Gotcha. I've been there a couple times for work. Very cool place. Definitely the type of metropolitan area that you would put a NHL team.
Okay.
People are a little weird, but definitely a cool city. I've been to Omaha. I've been to Cincinnati many times, both of them. No, dog. No.
Well, I want to say Cincinnati is a bigger. It's at least a top 75 market. It's got to be. If I recall
I think
correctly off the
it
top of my
is.
head,
It is.
it might even be a top 50 market off the top of my head. And you got a hockey team there. Um,
You have an ECHL team.
no, yeah,
Let's
yeah.
be real.
Sorry. The Cincinnati.
Yeah.
You got a baseball.
Cyclones.
You got a baseball team there.
Oh, the Reds.
Yeah. So you have a professional sport there that works. I'm trying to think if there's anything else there. Uh,
You got Bob France there. That's a big draw.
so and Skyline Chili, right?
Yes.
So yeah, I could see Cincinnati like makes sense to me. I was shocked Cleveland because I figured the minute I heard all the other cities, one Kansas City is always going to be the. I feel like that's.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing: if they're putting a team in Utah, Kansas City's not getting a team. Like
Yeah.
you're going.
I agree.
It's gonna be somewhere, and Omaha's probably not going to get a team. Houston could have a shot. I could say. Maybe Omaha.
Yeah,
No, Houston
Houston
could have
makes
a shot.
sense.
Houston definitely. Houston 100% to me makes more sense than Atlanta at this point because you've done Atlanta twice. You've moved twice from Atlanta. I just, as much as I get it, you love going back to those places. It's time to go back to Houston because it's time to do that. It's time to give Houston a team. That's why I was shocked Cleveland wasn't on that list because I figured they would have loved to have tried Cleveland again.
Yeah, I think economically, Cleveland just has never really bounced back from Rust Belt status the way some other cities have.
Yeah.
And so I think it's putting a new team there is kind of an uphill battle. And then in addition to that, you have the Blue Jackets AHL team in Cleveland. They seem to do just fine, but they also play in the Cavs arena. So it's not like they have their own dedicated space there. But if you found a way to make it work with the Cavs arena, I'm sure Cleveland could work too.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I feel like it's just one of those things as well where you have to think of the location of where they're adding the team, what division they're adding it in. You're not going to add it.
Yeah, that too.
You're not going to add Utah, which is that Mountain Time?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that's another important consideration for that too, because Utah isn't far from Pacific Time with Nevada being right there, but it would be weird to not make it a central team, especially when if you're looking at going to Houston too.
Yeah. Yeah, but you know what? I guess that Mountain Time thing, it kind of it's weird, but I guess it kind of works because it's only an hour as opposed to. I mean, and when you think about it, the Coyotes, they're Arizona, man, and doesn't Arizona have like the 4 and the 2 hour time change or whatever?
Arizona is an oddball just because they don't.
Yeah,
have
they don't
daylight
do it.
time.
So don't they end up 4 hours at some point? Like it's a 4 hour time change
at some point.
Yeah,
but I don't know because see, this is the other thing that makes Phoenix so necessary at that point because I don't know what else you would do with the Pacific Division because you can't break out Calgary and Edmonton.
Well, that's where Utah would go.
Yeah,
that's why I think it would be you get a West team, then you would get an East team, then you would have to eventually get like a Central team and another one that can go into either the Atlantic or the Metro.
Yeah, it may
Probably
not be super ideal time zone wise. I know Nashville was in a division once upon a time that had all Eastern time zone teams, and that was a bit of a struggle, but it works out.
Yeah, same with Detroit and Chicago. You guys were thrown into different time zones, different conferences with time zones that were
Yeah,
starting on.
Detroit was a Western Conference team
Yeah, it
until
was.
2013.
Yeah, so it's like that's and I know that was part of the deal, right? With you told me that, right? That was part of the deal with Detroit. We'll go west, but the next time you realign, we have to be put back in our
Yeah,
rightful time slot.
yeah, they did their best to be the good soldiers there, but it's fine. That division used to be Chicago, St. Louis, Nashville, Columbus, Detroit.
That division
It's a-
rocked, dude. That division was
it,
awesome.
it did, but just like
It
geographically
made
and
no
time
sense.
zone wise,
Yeah,
it was so
it
weird.
made no sense. If you were a fan of a team, you'd be like, why are we starting at 3 o'clock today, and why is the next night it's starting at 9?
Yeah, let me tell you about staying up till 10 o'clock for 25% of your games.
I listen.
Uh,
The Rangers did their West Coast trip this year. I don't mind it with my lifestyle now. Working later in the day, I enjoy the night games now because I can actually stay up for them. But believe me, I'm the rare exception because Twitter was not happy with the fucking 10 o'clock starts. And all it was on that Ranger, and I know this isn't a Ranger show, and I'll shut up about them here in a second. But all it was for that last West Coast trip was, oh, thank God tonight's the last night because every game they only have one that starts after 7:30 from this point on the rest of the year. This is great. And I was like, oh man, you mean, ah, because there's a part of me that loves the fact that the wife is asleep when the game is on and doesn't have to.
See this horrible side of you.
Exactly. You get it because she then is like, as any, oh, is that so? Is that, and it's just kind of like it's not helping. It's not helping. No, like I get that you don't get it, but that's not helping. I'm ready to throw something right now. No. um. All right. So Coyotes. I guess we'll see what happens there. All right. Next thing up, and we're getting close to the end here. Big episode. Hockey Canada. I guess we don't have to go into a lot of we know generally what happened, but comments have been made. Players have officially been charged. Teams are getting long-term salary cap relief. Yeah, this thing's a
I didn't hear about the salary cap relief. That's weird.
mess. Oh, you didn't?
No.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. So all of the teams, the Flyers, Devils, Flames, they're gonna get some salary cap relief due to these players. Well, as Bettman said, they are uh, no longer on their teams. They're free agents. They're not playing.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so they're
I
they're
didn't know they went that far.
yeah they're pretty much cut from their teams, and everybody's getting a little bit of money back for it. What was it? I think the biggest one, Carter Hart, is clearly the biggest. Like I think that's like 1.5
Yeah.
million or something like that. The Flyers get. Everybody else is like the 500,000, this and that.
Yeah, I for those that aren't familiar, the five players are Dylan Dubé from the Flames, Cal Foote and Michael McLeod from the Devils, Carter Hart from the Flyers, and Alex Formenton was playing it formerly of the Ottawa Senators. I think he was playing in Europe at the
Yeah.
time. That charges started to come down, but yeah, I was surprised to see them take that route because it's unusual for there to be, you know, a chance to just sever everything with somebody just for someone accused of a crime, you know?
Yeah, but this is. I know that they're accused, but this is definitely a very different. This is a different situation. This is a very different thing. Sorry, I'm just looking at my notes here.
Yeah, for those that aren't familiar,
Because this is just this is a serious topic, so I just want to have everything in order.
yeah. Uh they stand accused of they were all members of the 2018
Mm-hmm.
Canada World Junior Team. They were attending a golf fundraiser in London, Ontario. One of them ended up bringing a girl back to their hotel room, and all five of them committed sexual assault on her, allegedly.
Allegedly. Um,
Safe.
and also as of now, Carter Hart, Alex aforementioned, Michael McLeod, Kalefoot, and Dylan Dubé have been charged with one count of sexual assault. McLeod
Yes.
facing an additional charge of sexual assault. Um, yeah, so it's it's gonna be a circus, man. In
It already
yeah,
is.
like it's just gonna. I know the cameras are out there in London on and it's just gonna keep. It's gonna be that way for a long time. I know the police department apologized to the uh, victim and for how long it has taken for this to come, but
Which is a super weird thing to do, right?
well, they. I think
You
it's
don't.
also because at first they weren't even going to try it. At first, they at first
Yeah,
they just shot her away.
they dropped it and they had to pick it back up at some point. I think that's the case. I don't totally know everything going on with it at that part, and the police aren't anxious to say a tremendous amount of it because it is, going to court.
Yeah,
The victim isn't overly thrilled with how public everything's become for it. But it,
and I hate to say this, but you had to expect that, right? Like, come on, you had to have expected
to a
that.
degree, to a degree for sure. And every time I hear somebody on a podcast bring it up, it's like, oh, it sucks that this is happening. It's like, no, 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 no. This is the ideal outcome,
Yeah,
is it not? A crime gets committed and someone has to end up facing consequences for it. And probably a little bit more of a public light on this than if they were trying, 18, 19-year olds.
yeah,
So, yeah, don't get me wrong, I'm not thrilled that this happened. I think we should all be very sad that this happened. But the fact that, a trial's coming about, and even if it's going to take until 2026 to get resolved, like this is a good thing. You got to take your victories where you can get them.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And yeah, it really it's I you said everything best. I really can't add anything to that. You kind of nailed it because it's not sad. I've seen some takes of these guys' career. I don't care about these guys' careers. If
Yeah,
these guys are found, if the evidence presented shows that they did what they're accused of, I don't care about their hockey careers moving forward.
yeah,
Um, because they lost the right to have that. Um, so yeah, it's just it's gonna be a while. This is gonna be a long, and there's not gonna be many answers for a while. The public light of this, though, it's gonna be interesting when more of this starts coming out, and when the trial begins, and we start getting those. Because if it's a big deal, man, this is a huge story in Canada. It might not seem like it here in America. It might be like what, but believe me, like in Canada, this is the way we were glued to OJ and stuff like that. Like that's going to be media coverage for this. That level of cameras there at the courthouse trying to get shots of these former players. Um, it's gonna be something, man. It's gonna be really wild these next 2+ years.
yeah. And we'll see where this ends up going. Speaking of things that suck,
Yeah.
do we want to go to our last item?
Oh, the Winter Classic. Yeah. Let's go to that. Yeah. Let's wrap up. Let's wrap up with some more disappointment, and that's the Winter Classic. And the fact that Connor Bedard and the Blackhawks got rewarded with a Winter Classic again, this time versus the St. Louis Blues. I do like that it's going to be at Wrigley, where the Chicago Cubs play, better known as
It's
the
been
spot where Ferris Bueller went on his day off. Um, But yeah, dude, this is the fourth time that Chicago gets to play in the Winter Classic now.
Well, when you put Seattle and Vegas in it and the ratings aren't ideal, you probably just say, well, let's just go push the Chicago Blackhawks button and then we'll have a game.
Spin the oh, what's the name of the children's toy where it does the spin and then when it lands on the farm animal?
I don't know the name of those, but
Okay,
I know exactly what you're talking
that
about.
toy, but where it lands on original six team gets to play. That's how they
Yeah,
figured this out. That's how they figured it out. Oh, ratings are bad. Pull out the toys, spin it. What original six team gets to play this year?
and it's odd that they've done Wrigley before and they've done Blackhawks Blues before, but I suppose at a certain point you can only have so many of these before you have to start repeating ideas or just getting really, really creative with the types of stadiums and locations you're using. But they've been doing Lake Tahoe. They did military academies. Like they're clearly stretched for ideas at this
Yeah,
point.
at this point too, since we've already gotten the Blackhawks and the Blues, like at this point they need to start booking it and promoting it like WWE. Like you thought it was once in a lifetime Winter Classic between Chicago and St. Louis. Think again. And then like have like a promo of Connor Bedard cutting like a promo on the Blues and stuff like that. Like you in St. Louis, you have the Arch. Nobody likes the Arch, and just kind of trying, like things like that. Like it's like, why do you have that, America? And it's like, oh, and then it like, yeah, that's what we need. We need like WrestleMania type hype for these now. If we're gonna start,
and the Undertaker's there for some reason.
yeah. That's the second period intermission. It's better than whatever band they probably have lined up. Just saying.
He just walks out onto the ice and broods for 18 minutes, and then they go back on.
It's better than whatever act they have lined up. Now, there is also rumors that this might not actually happen on the first, due to the expanded college football playoff quarterfinals that are going to be held on the 31st and the 1st. So there's a possibility this might be a January 2nd game, which has happened before. The 2017 one. Yeah. The 2017 one and the 2023 editions happened on the 2nd, so it is.
Yeah, like I hate the way the NHL shies away from competing with other sports, and I wish they would, put something on Christmas Day or, the day of the Super Bowl or something. I don't think you necessarily need to do that for the Winter Classic, though.
Well, okay, they do have hockey on Super Bowl Sunday. They just don't go up against the game. And here's the thing.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
I actually don't blame them for not going up against the NFL, which is what they didn't do in 17 and 23. They didn't go up against the NFL. And I don't blame them because the ratings, I don't know if you saw the ratings of the NFL on Christmas Day this year, which is typically the NBA's day.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, the NFL just one game pulled in more viewers than like all the NBA games combined.
Oh yeah. Oh,
you just don't mess with the NFL.
I saw a thing once where it was like the top 100 rated programs, and it has like the Grammys, political debate, and like Academy Awards, like a couple random things sprinkled in, and then everything else is NFL.
Yeah, it's wild how that sport completely has just somehow, and it wasn't Taylor Swift, man. But that's just gonna help. But it is wild how that sport just dominated because I was curious when you had the NFL going up against over Christmas going up against basketball because I was like, oh, I'm gonna watch basketball. My Knicks play. I'm gonna watch the Knicks.
Yeah.
And then when I saw the ratings, I was like, oh, I did nothing to help the NBA today. I am sorry. I should have just watched football at this rate.
But even something like American Thanksgiving, you're really telling me you can't give me Toronto Montreal play at night every year? Like,
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. There's well they've grabbed Black Friday, right? Because now they
yeah,
always have like the Rangers and the Flyers or the Rangers and the Bruins or whatever it is.
yeah,
It's always the
that day.
Rangers versus one of those two. So they got the Black Friday and I haven't and didn't they turn that into like a more than one game this year? I feel like it was
Yeah,
yeah, I feel like they turned that into like a day like into a thing.
yeah,
So
yeah. That's
they've got that. They got that going for them.
yeah.
And they play on Halloween,
Okay,
so
yeah.
they got that one. They're gonna play on Valentine's Day. I saw a Rangers game on Valentine's Day before. Alexei Kovalov scored a goal.
Was that the sniper game?
That was
That was Anisimov, wasn't it?
no that game. That was Mike Dunham's first shutout as a Ranger as well. To throw a
nice.
goalie name at you. Excuse me. That was the game where that was Kovalov's first game back when, for whatever reason, I forgot what year it was when they traded back for him from Pittsburgh at one point.
Gotcha.
One of the times where they traded like Peter Nedved to Pittsburgh in a deal with Kovalov. Speaking of names that nobody wanted to hear tonight.
Speaking of throwing things out there,
yeah.
I had one other thing I wanted to throw at you as a surprise.
Oh, let's see if it's what I had on mine.
Is it Chicken Nugget Gate?
No, it was not Chicken Nugget Gate. Tell me that. We'll end on that. We don't need to end on Evgeny Kuznetsov going into player assistance, which happened for the Washington Capitals forward, and we don't know why.
And we wish him well.
Yeah, we wish him well. We don't know why. That was the last thing I had. So give me Chicken Nugget Gate.
Yeah, so it's been a while since we did the show. I will occasionally make notes in pages for next episodes to put something together here. I opened this up. I had episode 42, Chicken Nugget Gate. And I'm like, it took me 20 minutes to figure out what I was talking about.
What is it?
ECHL game, Toledo Walleye, Kalamazoo Wings, facing off. It is a Martin Luther King Day game. Game starts at like 10:35.
Okay.
Bunch of kids are there for it. A chicken nugget gets thrown on the ice during a face-off. There ends up being some face-off violation. They go to reset it, and Kirill Tuteyev clears the rogue chicken nugget, takes his stick, flicks it back into the crowd. The referees award him with a 10-minute misconduct.
Wow.
According to Rule 39.4 in the ECHL, it lays out the reasons a referee can give a 10-minute misconduct. One of the examples laid out says deliberately throws any equipment out of the playing area.
It's not equipment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I thought it was important to end on a lighthearted note, given what we discussed, and quite the controversy over chicken nuggets in Toledo.
Yeah, that's not a piece of equipment. I've never suited up with a chicken nugget before.
I've never heard of anyone getting any sort of penalty for throwing any type of food at any sporting event.
Yeah.
That's how far I'll take it.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. All right. That's a new one. That's definitely a new one on me.
Yeah.
All right. Well.
Anyway, what do you got to plug, Nick?
Just my Twitter, wonderful_radio. That's about it. And if you're in, and you know, that's about it. Yeah, that's it. What do you got, John?
At JT Evans, the number 0 is where you will find me on X, formerly known as Twitter. I'm not there often, but if you message me there, I'll see it eventually.
Yay! All right. Well, until next time. Bye, everybody.
See ya.
In the merry month 4th of May. From me home I started, left the girls, her tomb was nearly broken. Hearted saluted father dear, and kissed me darling mother. Drink a pint of beer, and tears and grief to smother enough to reap the corn. Leave where I was born, cut the stop the thorn of banished ghosts and goblins. Brand new pair of brogues, rattling all the bugs, frightening all the dogs. On the rocky road to Dublin, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. On the hair a turner down the rocky road, all the way to Dublin, whack for all the dog.